If distress is the perception that one's resources do not meet demands, then I might say that resilience is the flip side of that. That resilience is the perception that available resources exceed demand. In other words, you can respond from choice, that you have options, you've got resources, you can meet the demands and see them as a challenge rather than as a threat. You know, if we see resilience as the ability to bounce back to a challenge, but can you sustain it?
Right.
We can build a resilience and rely on it to respond to increasing challenges. And part of that is our ability to perceive the situation as a challenge rather than a threat. There's also a very real aspect to it, that you can be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It is possible to draw down resilience. So there's an underlying understanding that needs to be in place of like a real honest understanding, self-awareness. What are my needs? And with humility and understanding, you know, respect for one another's humanity. Thomas Leonard, who was one of the fathers of the modern professional coaching practice, he talked about setting boundaries, you know, and setting boundaries that protect you, and setting them far enough out, not just what you think you need, but even more, and then enforcing those boundaries. So what is not allowed to enter your space? So that an example of that might be where I don't allow people to book all of the time in my diary because I'm going to save some time to do my actual work. The really important thing is to make an honest assessment of what reserves you need to have in place.
Right.
And reserves being physical, mental, emotional, you know, building up extra amounts of support. Most people have can develop an understanding of their context and understand it far better than any coach would. In the States, they're noticing that young women are opting out of high-stress roles at a greater rate than men.
Really?
And I suspect that it's a combination of external role expectations, so all the various things that are expected of them as carers, as friends, as mothers, yeah, along with increasing internal expectations of what they expect to get out of their careers.
Oh.
And at some point, they realize this is not sustainable, and they make a choice. You know, individual leaders need to keep track of what they're expecting of themselves. The more self-aware a leader is, the more emotionally intelligent, the better able they are to assess where that line is. You know, how far can they push themselves? How far should they? The best leaders I've seen have been able to be very self-aware and understand when they need to take a break, when they need to give their teams a break, when they need to be pushing back on expectations from the context. A lot of leaders say to me, well, I can't, there's nothing I can do. Right. Well, that to me tells me they have low resilience already. Right. If there's nothing I can do, then they're not at choice. That this is a process.
Yeah.
It's not a destination. That resilience is something, it's a process, and we build it over time through our choices.